Hello and welcome back. This is MC1 Gamer bringing you another Age of Sigmar battle report. So once again, this is the Vampire Counts against the Stormcast Eternals. This is the second game in the series, so I had met up with the same player that I met previously in the video going back maybe a few days, and we decided to play a second game and try out maybe a little bit of a different configuration, at least with the Vampire Counts. He brought the same army together that you'll see here. And, same scenario where he has his prosecutors held in reserve to kind of strike into the board, deep strike, no closer than within 9 inches of my forces. But instead of taking more of an ethereal unit, army, I took something a little bit different, looked for some synergies with some ghouls and the Ghoul King, and tried to experiment with some different models and different units. So here's his army. So if you saw the previous video, you'll see this is familiar. But if not, he's got 2 units of Liberators, 1 Lord Celestant, 1, I believe those are Paladins with the 2-handed weapons. I'm not sure. He's got another Lord Celestant on foot, and then he's got the prosecutors that are held in reserve, 3 of them. And then for my army, I took something a little bit different. And if you've noticed, if you followed my battle reports for quite some time, you probably have seen some of these models. I probably need to do an update on my Convert This series and show what I'm doing with them, because I'm finally getting around to actually finishing them up. I had probably delayed maybe 6 or 7 months with a lot of the 9th edition rumors that had come out, not knowing what I was going to do and where what I didn't want to spend a lot of time converting up stuff and painting it, only to have it change on the battlefield. And there's been a lot of things that have changed, but this stuff is still viable, which is what I was really hoping. In any case, I usually use those bat-winged Pegasi, which are really, they're kind of like fallen Pegasi. Actually, both of these are kind of fallen Pegasi. I use the ones that are based black on the left, mostly as my Vargeists. And I have these converted Bretonnian riders that I'm putting on there as well. But in this game, I'm going to be using them as the Morghasts. I want to test out the Morghast Archai. The ones to the right, I usually use as Fel Pegasi or Felbats in the Vampire Counts. They're going to be the Vargeists this time. I have 2 units of them, and just to try and different models. Different units with some of these models and see how they play. So. Then further into the middle, I have a Ghoul King with some good synergy with the ghouls. Obviously with ghouls, when you have a good sizable number of them, they get some really good abilities and unlocks a lot more attacks. They have great base attacks, and the command ability, special ability for the Ghoul King really works real well with that. I have a Screaming Skull Catapult, which I will be updating at some point. That's really the old version of one. I have a conversion that I'll be unveiling at some point. And then another unit of Vargeists. And so we roll for turn 1, and actually I don't think we even roll for turn 1. I think that I keep saying that, but that's not how it works anymore. He deploys, finishes deploying first, so he gets the first turn. And obviously the standard activity, for the Stormcast Eternals is to pray. I mean, why wouldn't you? You have this great ability to, within 4 inches, to basically make any unit within that range to be immune to battle shock. Why wouldn't you do that? Especially when you have these multi-wound units where they're highly valuable, and you don't want your battle shock to start removing these extra wound, these essentially stronger than the average rank and file type troop. So he then, he gets first turn, so he brings in his prosecutors, and he's looking to stay at the maximum range where he can still shoot at one of my units, and make it a little bit more difficult for me to follow up and charge into these prosecutors. So that's pretty smart. And then he moves up the rest of his unit. But unfortunately, I think he's, once again, he did this in the last game as well. He's moving up his Lord Celestant a little bit too aggressively. I would have screened them probably with some of these, when you want to know these units of prosecutors. That way, I think it can fly. It certainly has a pretty good move. And, as strong as it is, it's just, if you get bombarded with a lot of stuff, it's going to get hurt and it's going to get removed. So I probably would screen it so that you could blunt any charge with one of these, nicely armored and, plenty of wounds on these units, and then be able to get him in, stick him in with a charge whenever you want. And plus he's got some ranged attacks, so we can still, take advantage of that, even if he doesn't commit to a fight. And then, he starts taking some shots. I think he does maybe a wound to these Vargeists. And then my turn, because we didn't have any close combat, and he doesn't have any magic. So he goes ahead and well, I go ahead and use a combination of a special ability with the Ghoul King as well as the command ability to essentially get them +1 to their attacks, which means they got 3 attacks each, and they're at least going to get the front 2 ranks of guys. And then a +1 to hit and wound, which is just incredible. So, you know, the 10 guys up front, the first 2 rows, I'm going to get 20 attacks, 30 attacks from them, and they're going to have an additional +1 to their hit rolls and to wound rolls. So, yeah, this is the kind of synergy that you really should be looking at within your army, within your faction. Certainly, within an army, there are different pathways that the rules kind of guide you down in terms of what units work best with others. So look for those types of things because they're very, very effective. And they tend to be very fluffy in terms of just what units fit really well with others. Obviously, you can take what you want and do a whole mishmash, but these are the kinds of things that really enhance and make the army that much better. So I go ahead and move up on the left-hand side, the unit of Vargeists and the unit of Morghasts. I'm looking to hopefully charge those prosecutors and erase them from the board because they're way too mobile, and I don't want them to be able to get in behind and take out my Screaming Skull catapult, because that's likely what he would do. He would swing around and just shoot from long distance and remove that from the board eventually. And I like my Screaming Skull catapult, and it can do a lot of damage if left, you know, to its own devices. So I get to shooting, and of course, eons of time haven't improved their aim. It's basically a 4-up to hit. You get 2 shots if you have a full crew. I want to note also that if you have a Necrotect within range, you basically get double that. You get two shots for every one, which is essentially 4 shots, and every one that wounds is like 4 wounds. It's really not that bad. I think it's only -1 rend, but it also has a nice effect where it removes a couple of 2 of your bravery from that unit that takes any. I think if you kill a unit, I forget if it takes a casualty or if you do any wounds to it, but one of those. And if you do that, then it's -2 bravery, so that's like battle shock, bonus. I think it might be as a result. I think it might be because you have to remove an actual model. But in any case, it's just a pile on for extra battle shocks. That can be pretty devastating. But of course, I miss. And we go to turn 2. So I love this mechanic of alternating the turn, but then when it comes to a new turn, you have randomness. And for all the detractors, try it out, because if you're looking for remedial gameplay where you know exactly what's coming, go for it. But if you're looking for something where you just don't know and you have to plan ahead for all the worst case possibilities, that's what Age of Sigmar is. You have to plan ahead, and it's kind of like when I play bolt action, and you have to activate every one of your units, and you don't know, you have to pull dice out of a bag blindly along with your opponent, who has dice for all of his units, and you never know which, you can take 4 or 5 in a row actions before your opponent. And that game isn't broken. As a matter of fact, I think that's one of the best elements of that game. So I think that's a very, very important and very good part of Age of Sigmar. So, if you haven't been trying this stuff out, don't knock it. Give it a shot. I say give it a shot in general, but I think that you'll find that you might like it, and you might actually improve your play, because you have to then start thinking a couple steps ahead in order to prepare for that potential possibility. So he gets the next turn, and of course he moves back his prosecutors, which I thought was a smart move, because he got a few shots. I think he managed to get at least 1 or 2 wounds on the Vargeists, and then in order not to put himself in position to get a charge, he puts himself further back. Now, look, he could have stayed up there and maybe got up for a couple of shots, but I think now sometimes it's good to bait somebody, make them move off to one side, like I did with 2 strong units, and then retreat, or for maneuver, in your movement phase away from that point, more towards your strength, maybe in your center or the far side of the board, and it can give you, it could spread your opponent out. And in this case, he did spread me out, and he still was able to get the better end of it, because he managed to get a couple of wounds knocked off of me. So he then he compounds, he then goes the other direction in terms of making a good choice to, I think, making a bad choice. He moves his Lord Celestant right up on that hill, right up in front of me. I think he's hoping that he can get a charge in, but he doesn't have much support, and the rest of the Liberators and even his Paladins are just not as fast. They're not fast enough. I don't know if those are Paladins or if they're Retributors. I forget the name of the guys with the 2-handed hammers. In any case, he's got a Relictor you could see there, and his main focus, the other guy who's partially painted solo, his main focus is to heal the Lord Celestant, or to chuck some more lightning bolts or hammers or whatever from long range. And he's got another one on foot over there too on the left, just in case I make a move on his prosecutors. So he I think from this point he maybe takes another couple of shots, and I think he may do, yeah, he does. I think he may have missed the previous turn, or maybe he saves. I only got 1 wound taken off of these Vargeists. I think they have 4 each, which is not bad. And then he goes, and you can't really see from this angle. It looks like he might have made it, but you got to think of it from the top down. It's the way it works. He's just so close. He went. I think he may have made a run move with his Lord Celestant, so maybe that's why he didn't. There's no shooting listed here, but I remember he just was like maybe a half an inch away in terms of being able to be able to fold right in. I think that with a charge, if he made it within 3 inches, he'd have to stop. And here he was just outside of that point where he wouldn't be able to do it. And I think because he did a run, he wasn't able to do a charge. Otherwise, he should have been able to get in there pretty easily. But still, I think this was a mistake, getting right up here by himself without any of these other units really nearby. So we get to turn 2 for the vampire counts. And again, I use the combination to make the ghouls +1 to all their attacks. So now again, still 3 attacks each, +1 to hit, +1 to wound. Great combination. I move the Vargeist down the center, to try and support the ghouls. And I swing even further out to the left, the Morghasts and then the Vargeists. I'm looking to chase those prosecutors until I finish them off, because I just do not like the fact that they can shoot. I'd rather deal with these slower moving infantry type units, even though they're pretty beefy. And I make a charge with the Morghasts, but I fail with the Vargeists. So I mean, the Morghasts are nothing to sneeze at. There are 3 of them. They are pretty butch. I think they have 6 or maybe 8 wounds each. They do plenty of damage. Every wound that gets through is, I think 3 wounds. So they do a lot of damage if you fail your saving throw, and they get decent enough attacks, and I think they have a good rend. They're really, really powerful. These are the great weapon wielding version. The double weapon wielding version are really powerful in and of themselves. The reason why I like the great weapon wielding version is because they have immunity to not immunity. They have a save versus mortal wounds, which is very rare in the game. And it's a 5 up, I believe. Not so great. So I then go ahead and charge with everything I have on his Celestant. That just seems to be, unfortunately, a little too far up, and I get everybody in. Vargeists, the unit of ghouls, the Ghoul King, so I'm looking to put a hurt on this Lord Celestant. We get to the first turn. I unload with the Ghoul King with 5 attacks. I managed to slip 2 in, so we've already knocked him down a little bit. I think there was a whole bunch of other saves that I might have gotten, and he needs 6s, and he got them. So that was good. And he strikes back and wipes out the Ghoul King in 1 turn. Look, I think he's got 6 wounds, actually. He doesn't have much of a save. It's a 5 up save. And the Lord Celestant is pretty powerful. He dishes out a good amount of damage. I think he unloaded, some shooting as well, and I think he wounds on like a 2+. I mean, you really can't complain. And then I fold in with my Morghasts on his Lord Celestant on foot, and I dish out 3 wounds, which is good. I think these guys have 7 or 8 wounds. I'm not really sure, but they're pretty tough. And he then folds in his prosecutors on them. I think I've passed all my saves, and then I attacked with the Vargeists and managed to dish as much, get him down to 6 wounds. So I'm not sure if he's got 7 or 8 wounds, but this kept him alive long enough. He was still alive with 6 wounds on him. And then we get to turn 3, and the Stormcast Eternals get the first turn again. So he starts moving more of his. This is what the board looks like now. I think with some of the counterattack, as you can see up in the upper left, that he managed to get like 4 wounds on one of my Archai, the Morghast Archai. So obviously. I missed one of the slides here, but he's already whittled me down just a little bit with one of the counterattacks. That might have been from the actual prosecutors. So he moves up the units here off to the right. Actually, I think he folds one of the prosecutor units towards the Vargeist to the left, and then moves everything else on the right to start supporting the Lord Celestant, who's really kind of hurting. Foolishly ran out ahead, and of course. His other hero character, which has the ability to first, he can call down lightning, I think, but he also can heal, and he decides, you know what, F that guy. He ran too far ahead. I'm going to go help this guy over here. So he just decided to abandon his general, which I thought was just a very funny story that just unfolded with his move. He starts dishing some wounds off my Vargeists with the left-hand unit of prosecutors. And then I go and I fold in with my, I think my ghouls, which unload, just start dishing out. They still have the effect, even though the Ghoul King is gone, that they still have the effect. And I pile some of these guys in and open up, a bunch of attacks on his, well, we didn't see that, so let's get back to that. Here we have, I'm still, I think I did 3 wounds again to his Lord Celestin on foot. And then we get to the the ghouls on his Lord Celestin mounted, and he gets deleted. I mean, I think I must have had 20 or 30 attacks still, and I just unloaded, and eventually he just started failing armor saves. And then the remaining ghouls that could not reach started ripping into the prosecutors and left only one standing. I mean, there's just too many attacks. If you can enhance any units where they could just start getting 2 or even 3 attacks apiece, even if they don't have any Rens, eventually you're going to start failing, some armor saves. They're going to pile up eventually. And that's just the name of the game. So my Morghast eventually finish off the Lord Celestin that's on foot. So he goes down. You can see that I have now 5 wounds. So these guys have at least 6 wounds now each. So he must have dished out a bunch back in the previous round. Then I did a bunch more wounds on the, I forget what his name is. He's either was it Relictor? He's the guy again who can either hurt or heal you in a turn. He's a hero. So I dished out a few wounds there. And I think I separated each of these particular Morghasts to different, these different elements. I just did 1 attack on each guy. So I did only 1 wound. Oh no, actually, I removed one of the prosecutors and did another wound on one of the 2 remaining. So his prosecutors are now down to 2 guys, that's a pretty big deal because again, these Morghasts, the archive version, they do a lot of damage each time you fail to save. And so his paladins, I think they're paladins or retributors, I don't know. They're the 2-handed armor guys. They move up and they rip apart one of the Vargeists and do 3 wounds on another. But these guys have four wounds each, so they're still surviving. The Vargeists then get to attack back. And it looks like they just the left-hand unit of Vargeist start dishing out on the prosecutors on that side, and they kill all of them but 2. And so his paladins then are the target of the other Vargeist unit, and I managed to kill 1 and take a wound off another. They have decent armor even though they don't have any shields. And those 2-handed hammers are just devastating. I think they get at least 2 attacks apiece. I mean, they can rip through units, even heavily armored units. So his last remaining prosecutor on this side goes ahead and kills off one of my ghouls, and the Vargeists, not the Vargeists, excuse me. I lose one of my Morghasts to his, I think it's a Relictor, and and I still have 2 wounds taken off of one of them, so I only have 2 of the Morghasts left, and these are probably the strongest guys that I have. And there was one more turn where just with the attacks that I had versus what he had left, it just wasn't enough. You can see I didn't really lose much. I mean, I've got a couple more wounds left, and I just deleted his unit, unit after unit, whatever was left on the table. So it kind of illustrates, that if you have the right synergy and the right combination of units against your opponent, you can really do some damage, even against high armored and multi-wound units. And another key factor is that if you've got a really powerful individual unit, even if it's a dragon or a war machine or a super powerful hero, enough attacks get thrown at it, it's going to fail saves. It's going to start getting diminished in its power if it's a monster. Some even war machines work that way. And eventually it's going to die, and you really need to support those crazy powerful creatures and characters, because you cannot send them out just by themselves. If you have units that have 4 or 6 wounds a pop, and there's enough bodies there, they can absorb the punishment, and then they can dish quite a bit of it out. But those individual powerful units, especially if they're important like a general, you just can't send them out on his own. They're just not powerful enough to walk through stuff and survive the backlash, the return fire. So this is how the game ended. It was an experiment to see just how certain units worked on the table. Vargeists are still just as powerful, I think, as they used to be in terms of being able to dish out damage. They have a little bit better defense now because they have a decent armor save. It's a 5-up, I think, maybe a 4-up, I forget. But at least they have some kind of a save, where before they really were just all about the charge. And in terms of the Morghasts, oh my god, I mean, they took so much punishment and dished so much more out. And of course, the synergy between the Ghoul King and the ghouls just cannot be understated. I really like the abilities of the Stormcast Eternals. I think that even with more shootiness with archers and the crossbowmen, there's certainly some depth to the abilities. They are very much like Space Marines in the fact that they have good armor saves. They're really all around good in a lot of different things. There's a couple units that are good specialists. So they really will give you pause. You cannot overlook the power that they bring and the fact that there are no weak units there. The big factor is, of course, that they will get outnumbered. They may even get out wounded because of some big units with heavy multi-wound units. For each model, that is. But you just cannot underscore how they still need to be able to work in conjunction with each other, and you need to find the synergies with the Stormcast Eternals, but they are not anything to sneeze at. So here's that's the end of this series. I think I'm going to be playing my opponent Marvin again, probably with his Stormcast Eternals. He'll have them much more painted up, and so hopefully will I with more of my units. He may even bring his Dark Elves out for some games, but I'm looking forward to more gaming with him, and looking forward to more of you guys tuning into some more of my content. I have some really good stuff that's coming up, including some more battle reports. One with my son's ogres and against a very large unit of ogres against also a very sizable vampire counts unit army, and then in addition a number of more of unlockings with army PDFs and war scrolls throughout the week. So stay tuned, and hopefully you'll like, comment, and subscribe, and have a great day, everybody.